The message arrived without warning. It wasn't sent through any normal channel. It didn't pass through the regular satellite network or standard galactic relay. Instead, it appeared directly on Earth's top secure military servers, accompanied by a strange signature code that no one recognized. At first, the scientists thought it was a trick. But within minutes, every encryption expert agreed. The signal came from the Deathworld Alliance. That name alone was enough to make the generals sit up straight. The Deathworlders were a group of powerful alien species, each from planets so dangerous, so violent, that most life forms didn't survive past childhood. Their alliance ruled 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. They were known not just for their strength, but for their cruelty. Empires had fallen at their feet, and now they were inviting Earth to join them. In the United Earth Command Center, the room was silent. The invitation was simple, one sentence in the galactic standard language. "We recognize your progress. Come and speak among us." No threat, no demand, just a quiet request. But Earth had learned long ago that the most dangerous words were often the softest. The Human Council debated for hours. Some said it was a trap. Others saw an opportunity. Humanity had only entered the interstellar stage 50 years ago. They were still considered young by galactic standards. So why now? Why this invitation? In the end, Earth agreed to send a diplomatic team. But not just any diplomats. They sent a special group, trained in language, war, and survival. Every member had served on dangerous missions, and every one of them had studied the Deathworlders. The ship they traveled in was unmarked. No weapons were visible. It moved slowly, carefully, as if showing respect. But hidden inside were systems that had never been shown to the galaxy before. Just in case. When the human ship entered the Deathworlder-controlled space, things began to happen. Satellites near the arrival zone went offline, scanners failed, communication signals turned to static. At first, the Deathworlders thought it was a malfunction. But the humans hadn't done anything, at least not openly. "They're jamming us," said Commander Veltrick of the Kree Dominion. "Without using jamming tech, impossible." But it wasn't impossible. It was human. The humans landed on the station of Vornar 5, the meeting place of the Alliance. The structure was massive, floating, in the orbit of a dying red star. Inside were hundreds of species, each more dangerous than the last. This was not a place for weak creatures. And yet, when the humans stepped out, they walked without fear. There were only 6 of them, dressed in simple black uniforms with a small Earth emblem. No weapons visible, no translator devices. Their leader was a woman named Commander Reyes. She was calm, quiet, and her eyes scanned the room like a soldier, not a diplomat. General Korthax of the Varkeen Empire stepped forward to greet them. His claws were longer than human arms, and his armor glowed with heat. He smiled wide, showing rows of sharp teeth. "You are welcome," he said in a deep voice. "We have been watching your kind for some time." Commander Reyes nodded. "And we've been watching you." The words caused a small stir in the room. Not many dared to speak like that to General Korthax, but the human didn't flinch. The first meeting was held in the Grand Chamber. Thousands of beings watched from balconies. It wasn't just a welcome, it was a test. Would the humans show fear? Would they beg for approval? But the humans listened, quietly. They didn't interrupt. They didn't look away. And when asked questions, they gave short, direct answers, almost cold. One Deathworlder asked, "What does Earth offer the Alliance?" Commander Reyes replied, "Perspective and warning." "Warning?" General Korthax raised a brow. She leaned slightly forward. "You invited us." The room fell silent. That night, while most of the Deathworlders celebrated or planned, One Kree spy tried to follow the humans. He was experienced, invisible, moving through shadows. But he never returned. The only thing they found was a strange message left on a wall near the humans' quarters. It said, "Observe carefully. You invited more than you understand." The leaders of the Alliance met in secret. They began to whisper doubts. The humans were polite, but distant. Their tech looked simple, but too clean, and their behavior was too calm, like predators waiting for something. Back on Earth, hidden command centers monitored everything. They weren't waiting for a reply. They were watching reactions. One Earth, General said. They think they control the galaxy. Let's see how they respond when the galaxy bites back. And in the shadows of Vornar 5, something ancient stirred. Something the humans had brought with them. Not a weapon, but a memory. Because long ago, before Earth was known, the Deathworlders had destroyed a small planet. They didn't remember it, but humans did. And they were here to remind them. The second day on Vornar 5 began with silence. The humans had not requested anything. No food, no rest quarters, no entertainment. They simply waited. 4 of them moved through the corridors of the Deathworlder station with slow, measured steps. Their faces gave away nothing. Commander Reyes remained in the diplomatic hall, speaking very little. She only listened. To many Deathworlders, this behavior was strange. Most species tried hard to impress or survive. Some begged to be accepted. Others offered trade deals or secrets. But the humans offered nothing, except quiet observation. On the third rotation, the Alliance Council held a formal reception. Every Deathworlder leader arrived in full armor or ceremonial robes. The room was filled with roaring voices, heavy footsteps, and displays of strength. Explosions of color and light danced across the walls. Then the humans walked in. No fireworks, no music, just 6 dark uniforms stepping through the great doors, and the entire room slowly went quiet. The Alliance speaker, a towering beast with 6 arms and plated skin, welcomed the guests again. "Tell us, Earth," he said. "How did you survive long enough to reach the stars?" Commander Reyes looked up at the massive figure. "We didn't survive. We adapted." The words echoed strangely in the chamber. The speaker tilted his head. "Explain," she answered calmly. "Our world tried to kill us, so we learned to outthink it. We built machines, dug into the ground, climbed the skies. When that wasn't enough, we changed ourselves." There was silence again. One of the younger Deathworlder captains laughed. "And how many died during this adaptation?" Reyes didn't flinch. "Billions." The laughter stopped. Some in the chamber thought this was a performance, just words meant to impress. But others were not so sure. The humans spoke of death too easily. They didn't seem proud. They didn't seem afraid. They simply remembered. After the reception, a private meeting was held between a few high-ranking Deathworld generals and the human team. It was meant to be a friendly strategy discussion. Maps were shown, war records displayed. Then something unexpected happened. One human diplomat, Agent Kira, pointed at a star system on the shared map. "This sector," she said, "contains an old battlefield. Your records call it abandoned." The Varkeen general nodded. "Yes, the planet is still contaminated. We lost a fleet there centuries ago." Agent Kira zoomed in. "There's no contamination," she replied. "You lost that fleet because you triggered an ancient defense system belonging to a pre-collapse AI species." The Deathworlders froze. That information was not public, not even within the Alliance. Most thought the cause of the loss was unknown. General Korthax narrowed his eyes. "How do you know that?" Agent Kira smiled faintly. "We visited last year." "You survived?" he growled. She didn't answer. The human team stood and quietly left the room, leaving behind shocked faces. Soon after, alarms started ringing across the outer decks of Vornar 5. A Kree patrol ship, which had been docked for months, was now trying to leave without authorization. Its captain had gone missing, and its systems were showing false command signals. By the time station security reached it, the ship had already shut down completely. Inside, they found something strange. The internal logs were wiped clean, except for one audio file, a recording of a human voice. Curiosity is dangerous when you don't know who's watching. The Kree Dominion demanded answers, but the humans refused to speak on the matter. Commander Reyes simply said, "We were not involved," and yet every camera on the station had mysteriously glitched during the time of the incident. Only during that exact 3-minute window. The Deathworlders began to worry. Something about these humans felt wrong, not weak, not foolish, just unreadable. The final event of the day was a cultural exchange ceremony. Each species was to share a piece of their history, something that represented who they were. When the humans were called, they showed no videos, no tech. Instead, one of them stepped forward and placed a small weathered book on the table. It was old, damaged, and bound by hand. "What is this?" asked a confused Deathworlder. Agent Kira answered, "It's called a journal. A human survivor wrote this during the last ice collapse, 200 years ago." The speaker picked it up, scanning the pages with his glowing eyes. "These are stories of loss, starvation, cannibalism, suffering." "Yes," she replied, "but also hope, strength, the will to keep going." The speaker looked disturbed. "Why share this?" "Because we want you to know who we are," she said, "not who we pretend to be." That night, multiple Alliance leaders met in secret. General Korthax said, "I thought they came to ask for acceptance, but now I'm not sure they didn't. Come to study us instead." The Zarn Queen hissed, "Maybe they came to test us." And from a hidden shadow inside that very room, a human listening device silently uploaded the conversation to an Earth Command satellite already orbiting nearby. There, Deathworlders had invited the humans into their home, but they hadn't realized. Humans had already been inside for a long time. The next cycle on Vornar 5 began with confusion. A group of Deathworlder technicians assigned to monitor the central database discovered something strange. Certain classified war maps had been accessed during the night. The logs showed no breach, no alarms were triggered. But someone had clearly viewed restricted data, including secret fleet movements and black site locations. At first, they blamed a glitch, but then they found traces of unusual code, not malware, not sabotage, just something different, something human. Panic spread quietly. The Alliance security forces swept the corridors. All eyes turned toward the humans, but nothing was found in their quarters. No hidden transmitters, no hacking tools. Just 6 quiet people sipping synthetic tea and reading old star charts. General Korthax stormed into the Alliance war chamber. "Earth accessed our deepest files," he growled. "They knew things no outsider should know." "But how?" one admiral asked. "Their ship isn't even connected to our grid," the Kree technician spoke up. "They didn't use the network. The signal came from inside the command room." A sudden chill spread through the room. It meant only one thing. While the humans had been walking among them, they had also been listening, watching, recording, somehow bypassing every layer of Alliance security. Some members called for their immediate removal. Others said to wait. No one dared move without a clear reason, because no one wanted to be the one who provoked Earth, if the stories were true. Meanwhile, inside the human quarters, Agent Kira was reviewing what they had gathered. She sat, with Reyes in silence, scrolling through images, data, and deep-level encryption reports. "They buried so much," Kira said softly. Commander Reyes nodded. They always do. That's why we dig. Across the room, another human, Lieutenant Jin, studied. A specific file with narrowed eyes. It was a list of ancient worlds, most marked collapsed or dead. He tapped one of them. Rathwoon 4. Wasn't that the place wiped out by solar collapse? He asked. No, Reyes replied. That's just what they tell others. We found ruins there. Earth, ruins, pre-diaspora, from before the collapse. Before Earth was forgotten. Everyone went quiet. Because if that was true, it meant Earth had been part of the galaxy long before the current age, and something had erased that history. The Deathworlders had rewritten the past, and humans were here to write it back. Later that day, a Kree scientist named Dravak approached the humans during a diplomatic event. Unlike most, he wasn't a warrior. He didn't wear armor. He wore long robes and carried a data scroll. He politely asked to speak to Agent Kira. To everyone's surprise, the humans agreed. They sat in a quiet corner surrounded by vines from a breathing wall and artificial moonlight above. I want to understand, Dravak said. You shouldn't have access to our records, but you do. I ran your data codes through old logs. They match something we haven't seen in over 200 years. Kira tilted her head slightly. Where did you get those patterns? He asked. She smiled faintly. From home. Dravak's eyes narrowed. That's impossible. Those codes were last seen in the Arkan War, the one we erased from the archives. Kira leaned forward. You didn't erase it. You covered it. But covering something doesn't make it disappear. Dravak was now visibly disturbed. He whispered, Who are... You really? Kira answered without blinking. We are the ones you forgot. We are what came back. That night, Dravak disappeared. No signs of struggle. No message. His quarters were found empty. But on his table was a simple Earth device, a memory stick shaped like an old key. Inside, the Alliance security found logs, messages, and something that shouldn't exist. Human star charts, mapped far beyond known space, with notes in Earth standards saying, Phase 1, observation complete. Phase 2, calibration in progress. The Deathworld Council met in emergency. They argued for hours. Some said to cut ties immediately. Others feared what that would provoke, but deep down they all began to understand the same terrible truth. The humans hadn't just accepted the invitation, they had used it as a test, a way in. Every hallway they walked, every room they entered, it was all part of a greater plan. Not just diplomacy, reconnaissance, and they were winning. At the same time, in a hidden Earth base beneath Antarctica, the top brass were watching everything. One admiral looked over the transmission and laughed. They thought they invited prey. Turns out they set the table for hunters. Another general leaned forward. Send the fleet. Keep them cloaked. We wait for Phase 3. Back on Vornar 5, the Deathworlder generals noticed something terrifying. Some of their own ships were no longer responding. And, worse, the humans hadn't even mentioned it. The next day, the humans made a request. Commander Reyes stood before the Alliance Council and said calmly, We would like to join your war games simulation. At first, the chamber was quiet. Then came laughter. Cold, sharp laughter from generals who had ruled battlefields for centuries. You? Scoffed General Varnick of the Klex Empire. Your kind has barely stepped into space. You want to face us in war games? Reyes didn't smile. Yes, the council members whispered among themselves. Some thought it was a joke, others believed it was arrogance, but a few felt something deeper, an unease they couldn't explain. The Speaker of the Council leaned forward. Fine. You may observe from the sidelines. Reyes shook her head. No, we want full participation. 1 unit, no more. General Korthax laughed. 1 unit? Against entire fleets? You'll be crushed. Reyes calmly replied, "That's what we want to test." So the Deathworlders agreed, partly to mock the humans, partly to watch them fail. They scheduled the war games in a simulated star system designed for training. It had artificial planets, fake outposts, and hundreds of automated ships controlled by each faction's AI. The rules were simple. Each side would try to capture the central outpost while protecting its own command base. Weapons would be non-lethal. Ships would be virtualized. No real lives at risk. On the day of the war games, 5 Deathworlder species deployed full battle teams. Combined, they fielded nearly 200 ships. The humans sent 1. A small black cruiser with no official designation. No heavy weapons. No known shield system. It floated silently at the edge of the battlefield. The other captains laughed. "Is that a joke? That thing looks like a cargo hauler. Where's the rest of their fleet?" But in the control chamber, Reyes stood silently, watching. The war games began. Within the first minute, the Deathworlders moved aggressively, spreading across the system. Their scouts moved fast, probing defenses. Their gunships formed into deadly triangles of firepower, and the human ship, it vanished. The sensors blinked, and the cruiser was gone. "No signal," reported the Kree officer. "No visual," said the Zarn technician. "It's jamming?" one general asked. "No," another replied. "It's not there." Suddenly, one of the Kleck's destroyers exploded. Virtually, of course. But its systems shut down so fast that the operator thought it had glitched. Then another ship vanished. Then 2 more. No trace. No weapons detected, no signs of hacking, just silence and a creeping fear. The Deathworlders switched tactics. They grouped into larger formations, set up traps. They launched drones, scanned every asteroid, but nothing worked. Every 10 minutes, a key ship went offline, always fast, always silent. The humans said nothing. At the command center, General Korthax was no longer smiling. He slammed a fist on the table. "What are they using?" "They're not firing weapons," said the analyst. "They're using movement, positioning. They're predicting us." "What kind of AI can do that?" The analyst swallowed hard. "I don't think it's AI. In the simulation space, the only thing anyone could see was darkness and ships disappearing like they had been hunted." Then, without warning, the human cruiser reappeared in the center of the battlefield, right above the central objective. Every camera turned toward it. It hadn't been hiding. It had been moving through their systems, one by one, disabling them from the inside. And now, it sat alone, untouched, in the heart of the field. The simulation ended. The scoreboard lit up with the final count. Humanity, 1 ship. Kills, 147. Losses, 0. Control objective, secured. Time, 42 minutes. The chamber fell silent. No one spoke. No one moved. Reyes finally broke the silence. This was not an attack. This was a test. A demonstration of discipline, timing, and adaptation. "You cheated," one admiral shouted. "No," Reyes said coldly. "We studied you. We learned your moves before you made them. We walked into your war game and we wrote our own ending." The speaker stood slowly. "What is it you want from us?" Reyes looked around the room. "You invited us here. You wanted to measure us. Now you have. And you should be asking yourselves one question." She leaned forward. "If this was just a simulation, what do you think we'll do in a real war?" Later that night, every species in the Alliance received a short encrypted message from Earth. No threats, no demands, just a timestamp, and one line. Phase 3 begins at dawn. The Deathworlders didn't sleep that night. The Deathworlder Council gathered in silence. No one laughed now. No one doubted. The humans had proven something in the war games, something that sent a chill through even the fiercest species. Not only had they won, they had made every other species predictable. But what disturbed the council more than the loss was what came after. Because just before sunrise, all communications from 3 Outer Rim stations went dark. No distress signals, no warning, only silence. By midday, a Cray patrol ship was sent to investigate one of the lost stations. It found the facility intact, no signs of battle, no life readings, no damage. And yet everything inside had been wiped clean, logs deleted, drones shut down. Data cores melted from the inside and left on the main control panel was a small human flag, not painted, not digital, a real piece of cloth, gently folded. The message was clear. We were here. We left when we were done. Back on Vornar 5, panic began to grow. The Zarn Queen hissed at the council. They are not diplomats. They are forward scouts. Everything they've done was a calculated move. General Varnick shouted, "Then why haven't they attacked us yet? What are they waiting for?" That question hung in the air, and no one had an answer. At that same moment, Commander Reyes stood alone in the observation deck of the human cruiser. Stars shimmered outside the transparent wall. A small hologram floated beside her, showing maps, names, and blinking red dots. Each dot was a Deathworlder military stronghold. Each one had already been scanned. Behind her, Agent Kira stepped forward. "They're starting to panic," Kira said. Reyes nodded. "They should." Kira hesitated. "Do we move to Phase 4? Reyes turned, her voice calm. "Not yet. One more piece needs to fall." At that moment, back in the council chambers, a new alert was triggered. This time from inside Vornar 5 itself. A secret weapons vault had been opened, but not by humans, by the Deathworlders. An emergency activation had begun. A massive anti-ship cannon buried under the surface of the station, a relic from the old wars designed to destroy enemy fleets before they entered orbit. It was pointing upward, at the human ship. Inside the chamber, the council was divided. Some wanted to fire. Others warned it would be suicide. General Korthax roared, "They've invaded our systems, humiliated our armies. We should strike now, before they bring the rest of their kind." But just before anyone could give the order, every screen in the chamber glitched, the lights dimmed, and a new voice filled the air, cold, clear, human. "If you activate that weapon, we will not respond with war. We will respond with erasure." The Deathworlders looked around in confusion. No one had spoken. No one had moved. The voice came from everywhere at once. Then the chamber doors slowly opened, and 2 human operatives stepped in, dressed in black, silent as shadows. They placed a small cube on the floor and activated it. A 3D image appeared above it, a Deathworlder battle simulation. It showed their full fleet, all active defenses, and then it showed how Earth had already mapped every weakness, every blind spot, every escape route blocked. In the simulation, it took less than 6 minutes for the Deathworlder fleet to be wiped out. 6 minutes. General Varnick leaned forward, his mouth dry. "Is that a threat?" "No," Agent Kira said, stepping forward from the shadows. "It's a warning." She pressed a button. The simulation vanished. "This is the threat you didn't see coming," she said. "Not because it was hidden, but because you were too proud to see it. You thought Earth was desperate for allies. You thought we were weak because we smiled, because we listened." She looked directly at the speaker. "You invited us here to measure us. But we measured. You," the speaker rose. "What do you want?" Kira stepped closer, her voice lower now. "We don't want your planets. We don't want your throne. We don't want to rule." She paused. "We just want one thing." Reyes entered the chamber then. Calm, precise, unbothered. The truth. She held up a small device, an old cracked data disk. "This," she said, "was found on a forgotten moon. It has the original records from the First Earth Alliance, before your empires erased us from history, before your ancestors buried what we were." "Your kind started something," Reyes continued. "You erased our past. You feared our return, and now we're here to remind you. We don't forget. No one in the chamber spoke, because deep down, they knew it was true. The Deathworlders had once tried to remove Earth from history, but they had failed, and now Earth had returned with memories sharper than blades. The council chamber remained frozen. No one spoke. No one moved. The Deathworlders had prepared for war, for diplomacy, for control, but not for this. Not for silence that carried truth heavier than any weapon. Commander Reyes stepped forward. Her voice was calm, unshaken. "You think we came here for power?" she said. "You think we came to take your fleets, your stations, your worlds?" She placed the old data disk on the central console. "But we didn't come for war. We came for answers." The lights dimmed. A projection from the disk lit the air above them. It showed a recording, grainy and broken, but clear enough to send chills through the room. It was an old human colony, children playing, engineers building, lush green forests and silver towers. Then, flashes, explosions, ships descended from the sky, Deathworlder ships, screaming, the feed cut to black. A second file began, military orders, written in ancient Alliance script, target, Colony Theta 9. Origin, Earth sector. Status, erase. Witnesses, none. The chamber filled with silence again, but this time it was full of guilt. The speaker tried to speak. That was centuries ago. No one even remembers that war." "That's the problem," Reyes said coldly. "You made everyone forget. You erased Earth from the archives, wiped out our colonies, burned our name from your records. And then," Kira added, stepping forward, "you invited us back, like nothing ever happened, like we were just another species from the outer rim." She looked around. "We came because we needed to know who did it, who ordered the erasure, who tried to destroy Earth, not just physically, but in memory." The Kree general growled. "That was long before our time. Why dig up the past now?" Reyes walked to the center of the room. "Because you thought we were gone, because you thought we were extinct, but we survived, and we remembered." She tapped the data cube. A new image appeared. This time, a map, a chart of secret prison worlds, hidden, planets scattered across the galaxy. "After we found the disk, we searched the places it pointed to," Reyes said. "And we found something worse than just forgotten history." She zoomed in on one of the planets. "We found survivors." The chamber gasped. "Not many," she continued. "Old, broken, abandoned. Some still alive only because they refused to die. And all of them human." They hadn't just erased Earth's past. They had buried the people who knew the truth. The speaker's voice shook. That information was sealed by the founders. That knowledge was meant to protect. Protect? Who? Kira snapped. Your lies? Your empire? The truth didn't vanish. It was locked away, along with our people. Reyes looked at each species in the room. Some were ashamed, some terrified. A few still silent. Then Reyes said something unexpected. "We don't want war." That surprised them. "We don't want revenge." Now the council was confused. "We came here to see if any of you are still worth trusting." She tapped the last file. It showed Earth, not in fire, not in ruins, but full of life. Clean cities, new technologies, children laughing beneath strange stars. Earth rebuilt without you, grew strong without your help. And when we came here, we didn't bring an armada. We brought 6 people. She paused. You still saw us as a threat, Kira added. That says more about you than it does about us. The chamber went quiet again, but now it wasn't fear. It was reflection, because they had watched the humans win the war games with one ship. They had seen Earth tear through, old secrets like paper, and now Humanity was offering a choice. "We want one thing," Reyes said. "Release the names. Show us who signed the erasure orders. Bring them forward." "And then?" the Zarn Queen asked carefully. "Then we leave," Reyes said. "We disappear. You'll never see us again." "And if we don't?" General Varnick growled. Kira smiled faintly. "Then we assume you're protecting them, and we act accordingly." The speaker looked around the chamber. They were not facing a broken species. They were facing survivors, and survivors never forget. The council had 3 days to decide. 3 days to release the names of those who had ordered Earth's erasure. 3 days to face the truth they had buried for centuries. Most of the Deathworlders were silent. Some met in secret, whispering about what would happen if they gave the humans what they wanted. Others feared war. Some even considered striking first, just to end the threat before it grew any larger. But the humans didn't press. They waited, they watched, and above Vornar 5, the small black human cruiser remained still, silent like a shadow in space. Its weapons stayed offline, its shields untouched. But everyone knew. If Earth decided to act, no one could stop them. Inside the council chamber, the speaker met privately with Reyes and Kira. "We have found something," the speaker admitted. "Records, names, locations. Most are dead, but not all." Reyes waited. "There is one still alive," the speaker said. "An old warlord, exiled long ago. He was the one who first proposed the idea to the founders, to remove Earth from history." "Where is he?" Reyes asked. The speaker hesitated. "He's protected by old laws, hidden deep in the Dragor system. Even we cannot go there without permission." Kira stepped forward. "We don't need your permission." The speaker sighed. "Then this is your war now." Reyes turned to leave, but just before the doors opened, the speaker said one last thing. "Not all of us agreed with what was done to your kind. Some of us tried to stop it. Some remembered." Reyes paused. "Then remember this too. Silence is also a choice." And then she was gone. 3 days later, a ship left Vornar 5, quietly. It carried no flags, no threats, no armies, just 6 humans, and the names of those responsible. The Deathworlders watched it vanish into deep space, and none dared follow. What happened next was not recorded in official archives, but stories leaked. Rumors whispered across the stars like cold wind. They said a fortress in the Dragor system fell in less than an hour. They said the sky above it turned black, not from weapons, but from silence. They said the old warlord was found hiding, not in armor, not in command, but alone, afraid, surrounded by his own lies. He begged for mercy. He offered secrets. He swore he was only following orders. But the humans did not kill him. They did something worse. They brought him back, not as a prisoner, but as a witness. When the cruiser returned to Vornar 5, they placed him before the council. Thin, broken, terrified. Reyes looked at the council. "This is the face of your past." The speaker looked down. Reyes continued. "You tried to erase us, but it didn't work, because there were those who survived, those who hid, those who remembered." She turned to the council members. "And now we remember too." There was no applause, no cheers, just silence and understanding. Later that night, the humans prepared to leave. The war was over, but not because it was fought, because it was won the moment the truth was exposed. As Reyes stood by the ship, a young officer from the Zarn Republic approached. "I never knew," the officer said. "We were never taught what happened." Reyes looked at the stars. "That's how history works. It forgets what it's told to forget." The officer hesitated. "Will Earth ever come back?" Reyes gave a small smile. "Maybe. If we're needed again." And with that, the ship vanished into deep space. No celebration, no warning. Just the quiet disappearance of a species the galaxy once tried to destroy, and now could never ignore. Again. In the years that followed, things changed. Not quickly, not easily, but slowly, species across the galaxy began asking harder questions. Digging through old records, finding truths that had been buried, and everywhere Earth had once been forgotten, now it was remembered. Not as conquerors, not as monsters, but as survivors who returned with truth instead of fire. And in the darkest corners of the galaxy, where powerful empires still whispered of control, one message began to spread. Be careful what you erase, because one day it might come back remembering everything.